Okay, so just a little bit of the story left as we continue on. So I hope you're seeing a pattern here. There are lots of themes that are being paralleled between the whole conflict with Monica and David, the question of, experiencing abstract realities like time, love. So I'll put a few of these down. We mentioned some earlier, but let's say time, love, beauty, self-consciousness. Oops. All right, I pressed the button. Sorry. Like life, and that's connection to being self-conscious. Like, what is true life? What is alive? Is it just intelligence? We've seen that. Like, you just need intelligence and then you have life, or you need something more than that. So we'll connect all these once the big kind of reveal is, but you should already know that if you read the story. I'm just not saying it yet because I want to build it up and build my case of my close reading, and then just do some analysis in the last part of this video. So now we're coming to the final scene, and synth setting is shifted because Henry Swinton is now coming home from work. So Henry Swinton caught the express home in high spirits and occasionally said a word to the synthetic serving man he was taking home with him. The serving man answered politely and punctually, although his answers were not always entirely relevant by human standards. The Swintons lived in one of the ritziest city blocks half a kilometer above the ground. Embedded in other apartments, their apartments had no windows to the outside. Nobody wanted to see the overcrowded external world. Henry unlocked the door with his retina pattern scanner and walked in, followed by the serving man. So notice some of the details of the world, the futuristic world. This thing is tough to draw a straight line sometimes, tell you. Still getting used to this technology myself. So yeah, half a kilometer above the ground. That's a crazy tall building. Like, I don't know how tall it is, but this is a tree maybe. I don't know, maybe that's a person. It's really tall, and their apartment is like in the middle of other apartments with no windows. So if we imagine this, huge, crazy tall building, and they have no windows. No one wants to see the overcrowded external world. So that's why they have these special window screens, and they can change the setting and have fake gardens and everything. So he unlocks the door, with his eye scanner. At once, Henry was surrounded by the friendly illusion of gardens set in eternal summer. It was amazing what hologram could do to create huge mirages in small spaces. Behind its roses and wisteria stood their house. The deception was complete. A Georgian mansion appeared to welcome him. So there's all this hologram technology, holographic, and notice they've called it hologram, like the word whole. Okay, whole is usually, that's a good word normally, but it's also called a deception. The deception was complete. We saw this issue of lying and deception earlier. Technology lying, like Teddy. So what's real? Deception, holograms, fake realities, right? Fake versus real life or reality. Major issue going on. How do you like it? He asked the serving man. Roses occasionally suffer from black spot. These roses are guaranteed free from any imperfections. It is always advisable to purchase goods with guarantees, even if they cost slightly more. Thanks for the information, Henry said dryly. Synthetic life forms were less than 10 years old, and the old android mechanicals less than 16. The faults of their systems were still being ironed out year by year. He opened the door and called to Monica. She came out of the sitting room immediately and flung her arms round him, kissing him ardently on cheek and lips. Henry was amazed. Pulling back to look at her face, he saw how she seemed to generate light and beauty. It was months since he had ever seen her so excited. Instinctively, he clasped her tighter. Darling, what's happened? Henry, oh, my darling, I was in despair. But I've just dialed the afternoon post and you'll never believe it. Oh, it's wonderful. For heaven's sake, woman, what's wonderful? He caught a glimpse of the heading on the photostat in her hand, still moist from the wall receiver. Ministry of Population. He felt the color drain from his face in sudden shock and hope. Monica, oh, don't tell me our numbers come up. Yes, darling, yes, we've won this week's Parenthood Lottery. We can go ahead and conceive a child at once. He let out a yell of joy. They danced round the room. Pressure of population was such that reproduction had to be strict, controlled. Childbirth required government permission. For this moment they had waited 4 years. Incoherently they cried their delight. They paused at last, gasping, and stood in the middle of the room to laugh at each other's happiness. When she had come down from the nursery, Monica had de-opaqued the windows so that they now revealed the vista of the garden beyond. Artificial sunlight was growing long and golden across the lawn, and David and Teddy were staring through the window at them. Seeing their faces, Henry and his wife grew serious. Dum dum dum, right? Wow, what happened? So, they're talking about a human child, right? Now they're allowed, they won the Parenthood Lottery. The Ministry of Population controls who's allowed to have a kid. You have to win a random lottery to even be allowed to try to have a child. And so, what does this mean? Well, it means David is not human. Alright, so it's a surprise trick twist in the plot. And notice that David and Teddy are in the artificial sunlight, and they are outside, and they are divided by a screen, a window. Okay? So they are separated from the quote-unquote parents here, as the parents are full of happiness that they can have a child now. These guys are actually separated from them. And they see them looking through the window, and seeing their faces, Henry and his wife grew serious. What do we do about them? Henry asked. Teddy's no trouble. He works well. Is David malfunctioning? His verbal communication center is still giving trouble. I think he'll have to go back to the factory again. So remember, we talked about communication as an issue. Okay, we'll see how he goes. we'll see how he does before the baby's born, which reminds me, I have a surprise for you. Help, just when help is needed. Come into the hall and see what I've got. As the two adults disappeared from the room, Boy and Bear sat down beneath the standard roses. Teddy, I suppose Mummy and Daddy are real, aren't they? Teddy said, You ask such silly questions, David. Nobody knows what real really means. Let's go indoors. First I'm going to have another rose. Plucking a bright pink flower, he carried it with him into the house. It could lie on the pillow as he went to sleep. Its beauty and softness reminded him of Mummy. So there we go. Now let's tie it all up together here. Is David's communication center really broken? How did David communicate? He wrote a bunch of letters to his mom. Okay, well, mom. Expressing what? Love, self-doubt. My computer's lagging, so sorry about that. Self-doubt. Self-consciousness. He was self-conscious about expressing love. Okay. Notice here, he wants to keep a rose. He plucks a bright pink flower because he's going to put it on his pillow because its beauty and softness remind him of his mom. So he's aware of beauty. He's aware of love, reality. I'm sorry, guys. Stupid thing. Time, abstract emotions. All of these things, right, are very much self-conscious, intelligent questions and experiences that David is processing. So all of this brings us to the final question. Is David real? That is, does he have real life? Is he AI? Is he artificial intelligence? But true intelligence. True life. What does it mean to be real? What makes a person conscious life? How do we define reality? She doesn't recognize. He says, oh yeah, his communication center is broken. Send him back to the factory. But he wrote these letters expressing love. He had these deep philosophical questions and conversations with Teddy. So right before their eyes is real life and intelligence, but they don't recognize it in David. So I think David is a true AI in this story. He shows all deep layers of human experience and self-awareness that I think the story is pointing out. The humans don't know what's really real anymore. They've created so many fake realities, they don't even know their own creation. They're looking for life and they want life naturally, but they've tried to make it artificially and they don't know what life is anymore.